The morning sunlight filtered through the half-drawn curtains, casting a soft golden glow across the small bedroom. On the bedside table, his phone buzzed with unread notifications, but his eyes were glued to something far more captivating. A had picked up her phone by accident, intending only to check the time, but a single notification changed everything. It was a photo message, a neatly folded image with the title Ultrasound Report. His hands trembled as he tapped it open. There, in perfect black and white detail, was the unmistakable shape of a baby growing inside a womb. His heart stopped, then raced wildly, almost as if it would burst out of his chest. His lips parted, whispering to himself, "A baby, our baby." A surge of emotions he had never known before filled him: pride, wonder, disbelief, and above all, joy. For years, he had quietly dreamed of being a father, and now, in this unexpected moment, it seemed that dream had finally come alive. He sat down on the edge of the bed, staring at the ultrasound, his eyes misting with tears. Memories flashed through his mind: the little house they had often spoken about, the baby clothes he once jokingly pointed out at the mall, the lullabies his mother used to hum. Suddenly, all those thoughts felt real, within reach. A imagined cradling a tiny newborn in his arms, its fragile fingers curling around his thumb. A saw himself rushing home after work, eager to hold his child, to be the kind of father he had always wished he had. His girlfriend walked in quietly, her footsteps soft but hesitant. She froze as she noticed what he was holding. For a moment, her face went pale, but then she quickly rearranged her expression into one of surprise. You saw it?" she asked, her voice deliberately pitched between nervousness and excitement. It turned to her, his face radiant with happiness. "I cannot believe this. You should have told me. This is the best day of my life." His words poured out, shaky and emotional. A got up, embraced her tightly, pressing the picture against his chest as if afraid it might vanish. Her arms went around him, but her grip was stiff, unnatural. Her lips curved into a smile, yet her eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. She mumbled something about wanting it to be a surprise, about waiting for the right moment. But deep within those words, there was a strain, a subtle quiver that he, blinded by happiness, did not catch. It pulled back, holding her shoulders, looking straight into her eyes. "We're going to be parents," he whispered, overwhelmed. His laughter was shaky, tears streaming freely down his cheeks. A kissed her forehead, thanking her again and again, as though she had given him the greatest gift imaginable. But in the dim reflection of the mirror behind them, a different story unfolded. While he was lost in his bliss, she caught her own reflection, and in that glass her mask slipped. The corner of her lips twisted into something almost sinister, a smirk not of joy but of control. She had managed to convince him. She had managed to make him believe. The ultrasound sat in his hand, proof of a life he thought existed. Yet she knew the truth. Her secret loomed heavy between them: she could never have children. Years ago, her tubes had been tied, her fertility permanently sealed away. This ultrasound was not hers. It belonged to someone else. As he continued to babble about baby names and nursery colors, she turned her face slightly, hiding her expression. Her eyes darted nervously, calculating, planning how to maintain this lie, how to stretch it just long enough to keep him tethered. Her silence was filled with unspoken darkness, a weight that threatened to shatter his fragile happiness. In that moment, the scene was painted in two halves, one of pure love and joy, the other of deceit and shadows. A saw a future, she saw a trap. A felt blessed, she felt cornered. And while he clung to the ultrasound as the symbol of a miracle, she knew it was nothing more than the beginning of a devastating betrayal. The euphoria of discovery carried him through the day, but when night fell and the world grew quieter, doubt crept in like a shadow. A sat with his closest friend on the porch, the ultrasound clutched tightly in his hand, as if letting go might make it disappear. The friend studied the image carefully, his brow furrowing. "Brother," he said softly, "do you not remember? She told us years ago, after her surgery, her tubes were tied. She said children were never going to be part of her future." The words hit like ice water down his spine. At first, he shook his head, laughing nervously. "No, you must be mistaken. Look at this, it is real. She is pregnant." He repeated the sentence as if saying it enough times would silence the growing storm inside him. But his friend's eyes were steady, filled with concern rather than disbelief. Think back, he pressed gently. Do you not recall the way she avoided the subject whenever you spoke of children? How she changed the conversation, how she gave excuses. Images replayed in his mind like flickering film reels, her nervous laughter whenever he mentioned baby names, her vague answers about the future, her insistence that they should just enjoy life as it is. A remembered the way her eyes darted away whenever children were nearby, as if she were guarding something too heavy to reveal. Now, with every memory, the joy in his chest twisted into a gnawing dread. The ultrasound no longer felt like proof of a miracle, it felt like a puzzle piece that did not fit. And in the stillness of the night, beneath the whisper of his friend's warning, he began to question if the woman he loved had built their future on a lie. The tension in the living room was suffocating. The walls seemed to close in as he stood before her, the ultrasound picture trembling in his hands. His voice cracked with a mix of anger and fear. Tell me the truth. Are you really pregnant? She froze, her face a mask of indignation before quickly twisting into wounded offense. With a sharp motion, she snatched the ultrasound back from him, holding it up like sacred proof. How can you doubt me? Look at it, she snapped, her voice laced with false confidence. The light from the overhead lamp caught the edges of the paper, exposing faint irregularities. The doctor's name at the bottom looked blurred, the hospital's watermark oddly misplaced. His eyes narrowed, catching every inconsistency he had been too blinded by joy to see before. Her words came in a flood, excuses, rehearsed lines, practiced emotions. She insisted she had been waiting for the right moment, that the secrecy was out of love, not deceit. But as she spoke, the background seemed to dissolve into fragments of truth. The scene fractured into chaotic flashes, her late nights hunched over a laptop, searching real ultrasound images and fake pregnancy symptoms, messages exchanged with a stranger selling medical documents, a printer spitting out forged reports under dim light. Each flash illuminated the threads of her deception, weaving a web she could no longer control. He stared, his breathing uneven, torn between rage and disbelief. Why, he demanded, his voice breaking. Why would you do this to me? Her eyes shimmered with tears that might have been genuine or carefully crafted. She clutched the ultrasound to her chest, whispering, because I was afraid of losing you. But the weight of her lies pressed harder than her words. The room felt colder, the air heavier. In that moment, he realized he was no longer staring at the woman he loved, he was staring at a stranger, someone capable of building an entire false reality brick by brick, lie by lie. And though she still clung to her fabricated proof, the cracks were too deep, and the illusion was crumbling fast. The sterile white walls of the clinic were colder than ice. He sat rigidly on the edge of the chair, clutching the ultrasound in trembling hands, his pulse hammering in his ears. The doctor adjusted his glasses, scanning the image with a professional calm that only heightened the tension. Finally, he looked up and said the words that ripped reality apart, "This scan does not belong to her. Eat this from another patient." The sentence echoed like a gunshot. His chest tightened, breath caught in his throat. The world slowed, the paper slid from his fingers, fluttering to the floor in agonizing slow motion. His vision blurred as tears welled up, not from joy this time, but from heartbreak sharper than any blade. When they returned home, the confrontation erupted into chaos. A demanded answers, she screamed denials, her voice cracking under the weight of her collapsing lie. You do not understand. He did it for us, she wailed, clutching at him, but he pulled away, his face twisted with betrayal. The noise spilled into the street, drawing curious neighbors who peered through half-open doors and windows. Whispers filled the night air, judgment cutting deeper than her screams. To them, it was scandal. To him, it was the end of everything he had believed in. Her sobs grew desperate, her explanations tangled in contradictions. I only wanted to keep you. He could not let you leave. But the words no longer mattered. Trust had crumbled, shattered like glass beneath his feet. The camera lingered on his hollow eyes as he stepped back, leaving her screams echoing behind him. The music swelled, heavy and tragic, until silence swallowed it whole, the silence of a love destroyed beyond repair. The night was still as he stepped out of the house, the sound of her desperate cries muffled behind the closed door. Each step he took was heavy, not with regret, but with the crushing weight of betrayal. The once bright future he had envisioned had turned into ashes at his feet. Inside, she collapsed onto the floor, surrounded by the torn remnants of her scheme, The ultrasound crumpled on the carpet, shredded papers scattered like fallen leaves, her phone buzzing with unanswered calls from the very stranger who had supplied her with lies. The silence of the house pressed down on her, a suffocating reminder that her game was over. Outside, the camera focused on him beneath the dim glow of a street lamp. His face was pale, eyes empty yet burning with a quiet resolve. In his hand, he held the real medical report the doctor had given him, undeniable proof that she had never been pregnant. The crisp paper glistened under the light, a symbol of both truth and devastation. A narrator's voice pierced through the scene, calm yet haunting. In the end, the truth always finds a way out. Lies can only survive for so long before they collapse under their own weight. As he walked away, his silhouette grew smaller, dissolving into the night. The camera returned to her broken figure, rocking back and forth, consumed by the ruins of her deception. The screen faded slowly to black, and in stark white letters, the final chilling line appeared: "Not every pregnancy is a blessing, sometimes it's a trap." The music cut abruptly, leaving only silence, a silence more powerful than any scream, lingering in the minds of the viewers long after the story ended.